The fight for diversity in entertainment is not a new one. From as early on as 1915, minority groups have been fighting for equality. Blacks initiated the call for equality, and major protests ramped up around 1942. By 1962, they were calling for more on- and off-screen representation. Following their lead, Latino organizations protested their stereotypical portrayals as bandidos or Latin lovers. Asian groups have been mainly fighting just to be seen, but they too protest against their socially awkward nerd or foreign karate master stereotypes. In recent years, attention has increased, spurred most notably by the Oscar So White movement. And Hollywood is working to solve the diversity problem. The number of minority characters is increasing every year. However, this begs the question of if this progress is as good as it seems. Progress in working with more minorities on and off screen, and Netflix is at the forefront. In 2018, people of color represented 40.4% of characters on Netflix, which equals the minority population in the United States. Also, 13% of Netflix's English language films had black directors compared to 5.5% of studio films. Numerous creators have commended Netflix for the freedom the studio has given them in telling their story. Netflix is actively exploring the lives of minorities by giving a platform to many creators. Moreover, people in the film industry are taking note of the demand for representation and are working toward better diversity. The building pressure for representation has created new guidelines and movements to increase diversity. The recent 4% Director Challenge by the Time's Up movement challenged people to work with a female director, especially one of color, in the next 18 months. Several leading directors and actors such as Kerry Washington and Paul Feig have committed to this challenge. Similarly, the Academy released new guidelines aimed at diversifying film casts and crew. Many have praised these new rules for the positive impact they will have on race representation in film. These guidelines can not only reshape what stories get told, but also make filmmakers and studios take the issue more seriously. However, several people argue that the progress that has been made is not enough. Numerically, the percentage of minorities on theater screens is still not representative of the United States population, especially when it is broken down into racial groups. A UCLA study of 2019's top films found that minorities made up 32.7% of roles, while their proportionate representation should be 40%. And when broken into categories, blacks were proportionally represented, but Latinx, Asian, and Native American persons remained underrepresented. Also, many argue that they are not satisfied with the representation that they see. According to a Horowitz research study, half of blacks and one-third of Asians and Latinos said they felt offended by people of color portrayals in movies and television. Part of achieving adequate representation is ending stereotypical characters. People of color characters need to get the same treatment as white characters. Similarly, many criticize the new Oscar guidelines because they were too safe. The new guidelines require films to meet 2 of 4 standards for Best Picture. Standards A and B have the most potential and focus on minorities in front of and behind the camera. They require the film to meet at least 1 of 3 criteria, and most films can satisfy the standards without changing much. For example, a film can meet Standard A with at least 1 actor from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group in a significant role. Actor and reporter Kyle Buchanan says that previous Best Picture nominees with white leads such as La La Land satisfies this with John Legend's supporting role. Moreover, one of Standard B's criteria is that 2 or more department heads must be a minority. Again, films with white leads or themes can still pass this standard. The Irishman is led by white stars, but would pass with its female casting director and Mexican cinematographer. This film, along with many other previous Best Picture nominees, would still be contenders. I believe that there is not adequate minority representation. Hollywood has made good progress, however, I think there is still much more work to be done. Though films are coming closer, they don't yet have a proportionate representation of the minority population. Besides numbers, many people are dissatisfied with the representation that they do see. When people of color are portrayed stereotypically or unequally to white characters, we cannot consider that good diversity, and I think this is something that needs more emphasis. You have to take both quality and quantity into account. Overall, I think Hollywood has made good progress and wants to be better, but I don't think it's enough yet.